welcome to the Explosive Golf Show. Michael Jacobs, head golf professional, the Michael Jacobs Explosive Golf School, bringing you today's show. When we're taking our grip, some of the big keys. What you hear a lot in golf instruction and things like that is people say, oh, I got my V's pointing this way and I got my natural arm hang doing this, and really it's just all silly. It's silly. I think V's are very silly. And you get someone slicing and with an open face type slice pattern, and what you'll see is they'll go take a lesson, and instead of having the hand, what I call in a vertical look, which means my hand is straight up and down, just like I'm grabbing a suitcase. It's not turned, which is palm down, or rolled. It's straight up and down. So my palm faces that way, and the back of my hand faces that way. Nothing's facing down or up. Vertical. And instead of having someone with the correct grip, with that wrist, with that hand and wrist vertical, what they do is to correct the slice, oh, let me strengthen your grip a little bit. And they end up taking the hand and turning it. And they end up taking their grip with a turned hand, palm down, and they say, oh, the V points to the right shoulder and this, and you know, you'll correct that slice. And just you can hear, the tactic is a hearing device where if I bend my wrist, if I take my wrist out of alignment, it makes a click. Okay, so having that hand vertical, not turned, not rolled, and having it flat. And what we mean by flat is the back of the hand and the forearm are in a straight line. It's not bent where the back of the hand would pass the forearm. That's what makes the tactic click. Or arched where the back of the hand trails the forearm. It's vertical and it's flat. And that's what the tactic helps you do. It helps you get in that alignment. And then with it flat and vertical, I put my hand on the club so that my thumb is just off center, maybe 1 o'clock or so, 1 to 2 o'clock, under the heel of the hand. We went over that full details in Secrets of the Nuclear Swing. Under the heel of the hand and back of the hand and forearm in a straight line. And what this allows us to do during the stroke is this allows us to have the back of the hand, the forearm, and that club face all working on the same angle. They're not scattered. If I did that strong grip that a lot of people do where their hand is turned, they're trying to get a V to point to their right shoulder, what you'll notice is if I did that with my hand turned, you'll notice that as I'm making my backswing, the tactic here clicked, and you'll notice that I can't help really but to have a bent wrist. It's going to be tough to have that back of the hand and the forearm on the same line at start down, and this is really going to promote even more of an open club face. So turning the hand to take your grip is not the answer to beat the slice. What is the answer to beat the slice is to have a wrist that's vertical, not turned, not rolled, to have it flat, back of the hand and forearm, and to learn how to swivel properly through the stroke. What I mean by that is, what I mean by a swivel is I would come into that impact, the back of the hand and the forearm would be in a straight line, would be flat. My wrist would be in its vertical look, not turned, not rolled, and I would be moving from a wrist that was where the thumb went above the wrist, called cocked. The left wrist is cocked. The left wrist would be leveling off into that impact, and then just after that impact, as I get into that follow-through, I would be making a uniform motion where I would introduce a swivel to some degree. Obviously, it's going to depend on the pattern, but to give you a generalized idea, to start getting you to think in the right direction, is what it's going to look like, right? Just after that impact, my wrist will be flat with that forearm. Just after the impact, I have to go to some degree of palm up. Some type of degree of my hand rolling to palm up after that impact. Almost all the slicing and all the topping in the world comes from golfers who are either keeping that palm down or the back of the hand up just after that impact, trying to drive it straight up in the air and making that tactic tick. So what's going to happen is, if I do this properly, I'll do it without a club. I come back down to that impact, and then just after that impact, it's vertical, it's flat with the back of the hand and the forearm, and then as I go to that palm up roll, my left arm bends, and you'll notice that there's no sound in the tactic throughout the swivel. So in just a generic cookie cutter mold swivel, just after that impact, as I swivel and go to palm up, the back of the hand and the forearm works in a tandem as my arm bends. So that's an excellent little way. If you're a slicer out there, your correction is not to turn your hand on your grip and close the club face and do all these things. It's due to the fact that we need a sound grip. We need to match the club face to the back of the hand and the forearm, and you need to learn to put the proper amount of pressure into the ball through what we like to term a swivel. Getting the back of your hand and your forearm to lay flat at the top, then to work its way back down to flat still, but now vertical to where that hand is not turned towards the ground. See, on the backswing, technically the palm would be turned towards the ground. As I pivot and I get to the top of that stroke, I have now moved to where that palm would have been facing the ground as a function through my pivot. So now what has to take place is, since that would have been facing the ground, is it has to come back to vertical, where the palm would face towards the camera and the back of the hand would face that way. So there's going to be a move. You're going to train yourself to get that club back to vertical, and then after that impact, train yourself then to roll where that palm would face up. So basically, through your pivot on the backswing, wrist flat, palm would be facing towards the ground, it would be even, and then your palm would face towards the sky as this arm bends. And that's how you would train your swivel. When training your grip, just from starters, I like to use a little quick tip for you. Is much like grabbing a suitcase. As I would reach down to grab a suitcase at the airport, much like grabbing a grip. Everything, my wrist would be flat with the forearm, my hand would be vertical, and it's a lot like grabbing a suitcase. I think that'll help you a lot. When you're also focusing in and training your swivel and learning to work the club face properly, it'll be helpful to see the role of the right hand, and if the right hand is behind the club, as I come into that impact, this wrist is flat, like we said, with the forearm, the left wrist, and the right wrist would be slightly bent. Now, if I'm going to swivel and go to palm up on the left hand, if I'm going to go to palm up as the arm bends, that means my right palm has to match it by going palm down. So whatever type of swivel I use, let's say if I use just a very little swivel, like someone maybe who hooks the ball, maybe we'll do a minimal swivel, right? There will be some degree of left hand going to palm up, right hand going to palm down. It exists in all your strokes there. A maximum swivel, like someone who's big time slicer, we fix his grip. Much to their surprise, it's not a turned grip, it's a regular grip. And then after that impact, for a maximum swivel, it would be back of the hand and forearm staying flat, no tick on that tack tick, and it would be palm up on the left hand, so there would be a full swivel to where the thumb bone would rotate around that pinky bone, palm up, left arm bends, and then on the right wrist, it would be palm down. So that's a little introduction for you to a swivel, how to beat a slice, little introduction to the grip. Hope you enjoyed the Explosive Golf Show.